Today you'll see a beautiful shirt dress that can also be a shirt. I've actually made it as a shirt, lots of beautiful fitting features. I'll be sharing lots of my fitting process with you. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing. Today I have a shirt to share with you that I made last year, many months ago, and I made this as a full sew along on my Patreon page. At the Orchid Tea, every month I post a poll. At the end of the month, you get to choose which one you want. Out of 3 options, the pattern that gets the most votes, that's the pattern I sew in extreme detail. I let it sit there for a while because all I had to do was put on the buttonholes and buttons. So if you saw my previous episode, I showed you all about buttonholes and buttons. This is a Vivi shirt dress or shirt from Pattern Scout. I was actually sewing them onto my Vivi shirt. But now you get to see the whole thing and know about this pattern. I think it's amazing. As I said, it can be a shirt dress or a shirt. The dress can be at the knee or even midi. If you make it longer at the midi length, you're going to have slits on the side so you're able to walk. That's nice. There's a camp collar, and on the inside it's all finished with facings, even a facing on the back, which makes it super easy. You can make it sleeveless. If you make it sleeveless, you finish the armhole with binding. If you do the sleeve, then it's a beautiful sleeve that's a little wider over here. Really interesting cuff that looks more like a bell shape. Very nice. I love that long sleeve, and my shirt has a long sleeve because I wanted mine to be like a shirt or a little light jacket at the same time. There's quite a few fitting darts right here on the side, on the waist, on the front, on the back. There's a bodice seam that hits the waist, and then the skirt piece. The skirt piece is going to be short if you're making the shirt, or longer if you're making the dress. You also have optional patch pockets you can sew onto the front. I did sew on mine, but as usual, you can leave those out. It's a Ladera shirt from Itch to Stitch. It's actually a shirt dress, but I hacked it to be a shirt. One of my favorite makes from last year, and this is a gorgeous cotton poplin. I love the red and the white. It's just lovely and it's so comfortable. So yeah, if you want to know what it is, that's what it is. These are pattern designed for woven fabrics. You know, woven fabrics are really my favorite, and of course with all these fitting features, it's going to be easier to work with a woven fabric. You can use something that's got a little bit of drape, but I wouldn't go that light. So if you want to use a rayon, I'd go for a little heavier rayon, like a rayon twill or a rayon crepe. Maybe a heavier tencel as well would have really nice drape. But you don't need drape for this design. There's no ruffles or flounces or things like that. It's just about personal preference. I think the easiest types of fabrics for you would be the more structured fabrics. And you can use a lighter cotton lawn, cotton poplin, sisaka, denim, linen blends, linen rayon blend, a cotton twill. I've used in this opportunity the traditional linen rayon blend, 55% linen, 45% rayon in a burgundy color. Now this is a fabric I'd bought yardage of, and I've made several items already: shorts, pants, a top. I mean, I want to have sets and I want to be mixing and matching. So I do actually have a pair of shorts and a pair of pants that will go with this one if I want to wear them together. Love doing that. You do need fusible interfacing. You know, there's quite a few pieces here, the collar, the facing pieces. So you need a little bit of that. And the pattern mentions 1/2 inch size buttons. I actually found the right color that I needed in 5/8 of an inch buttons. I looked high and low. It was pretty hard for me to find matching buttons for burgundy. So when I did find them, I just bought them and I measured them. They're a tad bit bigger, but that's okay. The sizing for Pattern Scout comes from 0 to 30 US. At size 30, the hip circumference is 60 inches, and there's B, C, and D cup sizes available for your front pieces. So I think that's super helpful. And even if you have a larger cup size than a D, starting from the D and making a full bust adjustment is going to be easier than starting from a B cup, for example. So I think it's got you covered for a lot of cup sizes here. Now, you know, every designer has their own block and the way they make the size charts. I find with Pattern Scout, it's very hourglass. The waist to hip ratio difference is quite large, 12 to 14 inches when you look at the size chart. I'm an hourglass. My difference from my waist and my hips is 10 inches. So I usually don't end up in the same size, which is fine. You can print multiple sizes here. There's layers. You can blend sizes. That is absolutely fine. Now, about the fit, it's fitted. I think the ease at the bust is very small. half an inch. It's very fitted. So what would I suggest? I would suggest you sew a tinier seam allowance right here on the bust. The seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. If you sew 3/8 just here for just a little bit, that will end up giving you almost an inch extra on the front, and I think that is good. So that's what I did. I do think having half an inch of ease is very, very little. I know you're going to be wearing a bra underneath and probably that's it, but still, it's quite fitted at the bust. At the waist it's okay, about 3.5 inches. At the hips it's okay, about 4.5 inches. I didn't sew one size. I did 16 bust, 18 waist, and then back to 16 hips to get the fit that I wanted. I want to share a little bit of my fitting process because when you see a pattern that has so many dots and waist seams and things, I don't want to jump right into my nice fabric. I do want to make a test garment. I don't make a test garment for every single thing, but I think when there's a waist seam, I really want to be sure that that's exactly at my waist, that the dots are hitting right. There could be the risk of the bodice being too long or too short, and there's certain things that you just can't fix after the fact. Now, I know the dots are always going to be a little bit off because it's really hard to get them customized on a pattern. You know, you can put the dot down or up, or there's always things that I want to check. I made some flat pattern measurements and I had a hunch that the bodice was going to be a little bit too long, but I did want to confirm that on the body. Same as the length of the dots, they seemed a little bit long, a little bit high, but yeah, I just cut it out of a cotton that is horrible color that I know I'm never going to make a garment out of. And let's see how my test garment looks. I even sewed on a sleeve. This is a non-wearable test garment I made out of the Vivi. I want to check and confirm a few things. I think the ease of the sleeve is okay, considering it's just a single layer. It's a shirt or a dress. I wouldn't be layering sleeves under here, so it's okay, but it is a slimish sleeve. I even sewed this cuff on here. It's really nice. It's just overlapped. And I folded up the hem allowance here. That's 5/8 of an inch. And I think it's okay for the length that I like, so I'm not going to be changing the length here. Now, I always knew that there was only half an inch of positive ease at the bust, which it turns out to be actually 0 because the bra, all the things, I would say that is a very fitted woven garment if you have half an inch. The center of the garment is marked on the pattern, and I did a basting stitch just so I can know where it is and I can overlap this correctly. So that stitch is right on top of the stitch under there. There's quite a nice overlap. Remember, there's going to be a facing sewn in here with 5/8 seam allowance. So this would be the correct fit, which is fitted. I don't want to go up to the next size because I'm happy with the waist and hippies. So all I'm going to do is just sew with a slightly smaller seam allowance here. It's 5/8. If I sew it with 3/8, that will give me an extra inch right here at the bust where I need it. And then I'm going to come back to the original waist over here. That's just something really easy if you just need 1 extra inch of ease. I think the drafting is just fitted. I think half an inch is way too little for a fitted woven garment like this. Now, there are 2 dots. This waist dot here, I think is coming up way too high. Like it's right at my apex. I don't want that pointy bit there. So with a pen here, I'm just going to draw a line and drop this by about 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to make this dot a little shorter. That's easy to do. And now on the side, you can see that the bust dot has a correct width over here, but then the tip is ending maybe about 5/8 of an inch too high for what I would like. So I'm going to mark that there, 5/8 further down, and then I'm just going to redirect the dot. I'm not going to change it from here. I'm just going to redirect it. Otherwise, I think the shaping is good. Now, I think the bodice is a little long for me. I'm quite short-waisted. My waist is way up here. And you can tell at the back, I do have extra length on the bodice right there. So I'm going to take this little cord and tie it around here. This is going to help me find my natural waist. If I tie it up, it'll go to the smallest part. So this is basically where the seam allowance is pressed up. That means my bodice is about 5/8 of an inch too long. And I am going to correct that. Same as at the back here. There is a shorten and lengthen line on the bodice pieces. So I'm going to be shortening the bodice by 5/8. Both in the front and the back. That's not sway back, that's just the bodice is too long for me. And I wanted to see if I like the length of this one so I can make a shirt being the length that I like, and I do like this length. This is very, very helpful for me. I'm gonna fix these dots. This one, just bring it down a little bit. This one, make it shorter. I'm gonna shorten that bodice and use a slightly smaller seam allowance right here at the bust area. And I'm going to be happy to sew my final version. I always prefer to do a non-wearable one. I don't have any expectations for this, and this gave me all the information I need. So as you saw, my hunch was correct. The bodice was a little long. Now I'm tallish, I'm 5'8", you know, I'm a little taller than average. And I do find sometimes that bodices are long on me. That's just because I have such a short torso and most of my length comes from my waist down to the floor. I have longer legs in comparison to the length of my torso. So sometimes bodices are okay, or sometimes they're even long. In this case, I found that it was long, 5/8 of an inch, all the way around, front and back. That's not sway back. I showed you the excess fabric at the small of my back, but it was also on the front as well. So I wouldn't say I need a sway back adjustment. It's just that the bodice is long all the way around. And the darts, you saw I need to tweak. So let me show you how I'm going to deal with that on the pattern pieces. It's so easy. After sewing my test garment, I know the changes I have to make. I'm going to start with the back bodice because it's got the less changes. All I need to do is shorten this bodice. There is a shorten and lengthen line there, and I've drawn 1/5/8 of an inch above that in red. That's how much I want my bodice to be shorter. So I'm just going to cut along any of these two lines. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you overlap and then you end up with a bodice that's shorter. So I'm just going to overlap here and tape it down. Now, because the change is slight, there aren't many distortions to the shape of these seams, so I don't really have to fix anything on either the center back or the side seam right there. It all fits really well. So that is easy. That is all the change I'm doing to the back bodice. This is the front bodice. I'm gonna do the length change first because that's easy. I've drawn the same red line above my shorten and lengthen line at 5/8 because that's how much I want to overlap and remove from the length of this bodice. This will end up shortening the waist up, but that's fine. This also does not distort the shape on the side either. Remember, you always want to line it up at the center front because that has to remain straight. And I'm just going to tape that down. Here's a closer look at the waist darts. You can see two darts there because I printed two sizes here. But because I'm using size 18 for the waist, I'm going to use the size 18 dart there. That makes more sense to me. So this is a little tip. And I'm going to bring it down and just redraw the dart legs to a lower dart point. That's just going to make the tip of the dart sit underneath my bust rather than right on top of it where it was when I sewed my test garment. So that's a really easy change. Now here is the bust dart that goes on the side. I know I want to lower the positioning of this dart, so I'm going to do a dot right there, but I'm also going to bring it out to the side a little bit so it's further away. When you have a larger bust, I think that should be a little bit shorter. So it just depends. And to lower this dart, I have two options. One would be to cut out a rectangle all around the dart and move the whole thing down. Or the other thing is just redraw the dart, keeping the dart legs in the same position. And I think this is the easier option here. That means I don't need to read through the dart on the side. Everything's going to match fine. And those are all the changes I'm going to make to the pattern. The rest I'm happy with. I don't really need to change anything else. And I'm happy that this bodice is going to hit my waist and the darts are going to fit my bust positioning much better. So after those adjustments, I was very happy to cut into my linen. I'm not going to show you all the sewing construction here. This is all on Patreon, but I am going to show you the pattern pieces so you can see them. And then I have some comments about the sewing. I've been spending some quality time cutting out pattern pieces. These are all the ones that need to be interfaced. These are the facing pieces. The top and the bottom one, there's a separate skirt piece, so there is going to be a seam on the facing. I also shortened these according to the change I made to the bodice. This is the upper collar that's interfaced. There's going to be an under collar piece that's not interfaced. That's the back facing, and these are the cuff pieces. You cut two of these interfaced, and I'm also cutting out some that are non-interfaced. And this is the patch pocket. I have already interfaced that one. There's a top section that needs to be interfaced, and I have already fused that on using block fusing as well. So now I'm just going to grab my rotary cutter and cut all around these pieces. You know, this is my preferred method to keep all the pieces in the same shape and size, have them not deform and turn out differently. It does affect the way that your pieces fit together in the end. So this is the easiest way and the most accurate because I've already interfaced this. I'm just cutting out once, which is amazing. So I'm just going to take my time to cut out all these. Here are the pattern pieces for the Vivi blouse and dress. I'm going to be making the blouse. The only difference between that and the dress is that your skirt pieces will be longer. So there is going to be a waist seam there. This is the back bodice. The back bodice is not cut on the fold. You can see it's shaped right there. And this skirt piece also has shaping. So there are seams on both of these pieces. This is the back facing. This is the front face that will match the bodice right there. And then there's a separate facing for the skirt piece. So there will be a seam right there. This is a patch pocket. On the front bodice, we have a side bust dart and a waist dart right there. And then here is the under collar that's not interfaced. This is a separate pattern piece to the upper collar that is interfaced. You don't cut them both from the same piece. Here are the pieces for the sleeve. It's a simple one-piece sleeve. There is a little bit of excess here on the sleeve cap, so we're gonna need to ease that into the armhole like any other regular setting sleeve. And these are the cuff pieces. They're not your typical cuff piece, so they will be sewn differently. And here I have two non-interfaced and two interfaced. The sewing here is all with 5/8 of an inch everywhere. Now that is a seam allowance I'm not used to. I know the big 4 brands use the 5/8. If you're used to sewing with that, it might not feel uncomfortable or uncommon for you. But most indie brands don't have 5/8. It's more common to see 3/8 or a half an inch. And because of that, I find it very uncomfortable to keep an accurate seam allowance. I found that around the collar and curved areas, I had to hand baste and make sure I wasn't getting puckers because the seam allowance is so big. So that is my comment about that seam allowance. I think any pattern that I see that seam allowance on, I'm just going to feel uneasy the whole way through because I'm not used to sewing with such a huge seam allowance. I always have to trim it down and make it smaller everywhere. So that is my comment about that. Now the seam finishes, I have another comment about that as well. Because in the pattern, it suggests, it's even in the instructions to sew French seams everywhere. And French seams, I think, are an option if you're sewing really lightweight fabrics. At least I'm super picky with them. I only use French seams on 100% silk that's very lightweight or 100% rayon that's super lightweight because it can turn out bulky. And when you press seams, you could see that bulk across the fabric, especially with linen. So I wasn't happy to do the French seams over here. I was very comfortable with serging and pressing seams open. And the other thing, when you're uniting the bodice to the skirt piece, that was with flat felled seams. Another type of seam finish I'm not happy to do, especially when there's a curve, because the skirt pieces are curved and so is the bodice. It's not straight sections that you're sewing. And I think it can also turn out bulky. And my fabric choice in this case, the linen rayon blend, is a medium weight fabric, quite structured. I felt it was not going to look nice. It was not going to feel good with having either the flat felled seams or the French seams. I didn't do any of those seam finishes in my sewing. I feel I got a beautiful shirt anyway. I think you can make that decision when you're sewing. I think seam finishes should always be a suggestion. In this case, it was part of the instructions. So I feel like some people would think I have to do it. I'm just here to tell you, yeah, you if you want to, but if you don't, you can sew normal and you'll still have a beautiful shirt, and that's what I did. Here is my Vivi shirt. Here is my collar. It's a cam collar and there's a facing on the inside, which makes it easy. There's no snipping. You know, I've made videos about a hack to create a facing when there's no facing. Well, you didn't have to do that here because that is how it is. So that made it super nice to sew. Center back seam, all pressed open and serged, very beautiful. Now I like to have serge a thread out of all the colors there exist, and I'm very proud of that. I get beautiful seam finishes on the inside. I would not be able to sleep if I did white serge a thread on the inside of something like this. So I think investing in a lot of colors is worth it for me. Here are the long sleeves, and there's this beautiful cuff at the bottom. You sew the cuff on, you sew the cuff, you flip it, and then you sew it on here, and it's beautiful. So it's a double layer in there, it's interfaced as well. It's a simple one-piece sleeve. There is the side buster and the waist dart that I made a little shorter. The pouch pocket is a rectangle, you can see there, very easy to sew. And then we have the horizontal seam right here with the skirt piece. This is just shorter because it's a dress. There's a center seam on the skirt piece and the center back seam there. So it's very well shaped. The fit is amazing. Buttons and buttonholes. Remember, I have a whole tutorial on buttonholes, and all that you saw me doing in that episode was sewing it onto here. So that's nice. Now, because I made this one many months ago and I have lost a little bit of weight, I think it fits me now with a bit more ease. I think I probably have 1 or 2 inches extra ease from when I made it, and I'm very happy. I'm very comfortable. I don't think it's fitting me oversized or anything like that. I have styled this 4 ways for you to see, as a set and then also as a layering piece, because I know that's how I'm going to wear it the most. My weather here means that in winter, a layering piece like this would be amazing because it doesn't get that cold. So this is lovely. I love the color, the experience. Let's see it on. This is my Vivi blouse from Pattern Scout. It's a pattern that can also be a shirt dress. I made mine in linen. Got some matching pants from another brand, so it's a type of set. You'll see the details up closer. You can see that there's a lot of darts for shaping. There is an actual waist seam right there, and then comes a skirt piece that in this case is shorter for the shirt, center seam on the back. This is with long sleeves. It's got a really interesting cuff that I can fold up if I want to. Nice and long, very unique camp collar that is finished with facings on the inside, so that's pretty simple to do. This is a fitted design. It's not meant to have a lot of positive ease here, and there are quite a few waist darts and bust darts for shaping. Here's a closer look at the camp collar. I did place a button higher than what was recommended just for extra coverage. There is a look at my bust dart. I've sewn a C cup. There are B and D cup options in this pattern as well, and this is size 16. Very comfortable fit. Got a nice colorful scarf to brighten up the outfit because I'm not usually dressing up in all solids. A little silk scarf in a print will make the outfit a little happier and a little bit more me. What I like about shirts is that they can also be like layering pieces if you just wear them open. So I've got a nice little dress underneath. And because the shirt is nice and fitted, it's got a lot of darts and everything, I'm quite happy to wear it over a skirt that has an A-line shape underneath. I wouldn't wear a really full skirt underneath because then the hem of the shirt would stand away from the body. So this is nice. I like the colors are matching and can wear it open or maybe just close one button if I want to. In the type of weather that I live in, these are very versatile for me because I can wear it on its own just with my undergarment, or I can wear it as a little jacket. Love that. Here is another way I can wear it with black and white. Not with a dress that's black and white. You can wear any color layering piece on top, and I love that. I'm pulling back that same color on the shoes and on the bag just to make it make sense a little bit, and I'm really happy with this. I know I'm gonna really enjoy it for in between weather and also to wear it on its own. Here's a cool sporty look over jeans. Again, as a layering piece, I do have a cami underneath and a cool scarf. I've added other colors into the blend like the jeans and the skin colored cami. I'm keeping my sandals the same color as the blouse and same as the little bag just to bring it all together. Really happy with how this looks. Really nice, casual, comfortable, but with a little effort made in there, and that is exactly the way I like to go out of my house. I'm gonna really enjoy this one. It's going to be so useful for me. I love this color. Also, linen is always a delight to work with. You know, cutting all these pieces, interfacing them, pressing all the darts. It's all very easy to do with these structured types of fabrics. I would love to make another one of these in white linen, sleeveless, so I could wear it as a little layering piece over some dresses in the summer. I think that would be amazing. But as usual, I usually don't have time to sew two garments, especially when they're more involved like this. These are really nice pattern. I recommend, you know, my comments about seam allowance and seam finishes. These are just comments I'm going to have about any pattern. It's not a critique as such. It's just my opinion about that. And remember, you can serge and sew. Don't feel like you need to do specific seam finishes if you feel like your fabric is too heavy for them. That's what I decided in this case. But the shaping, the bust cup sizes, the instructions are super clear, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I do not have an affiliate link with Pattern Scout. They don't have an affiliate program. I'm still going to leave the link for you down in the description box if you want to check it out. But I'm not getting any commissions here, nothing like that. I recommend the brand because Casey makes amazing patterns, and I have sewn quite a few of them already over the years. So check it out. It's lovely. I recommend. That's all I have for you. I will see you again very soon on this channel with more sewing. See you then. Bye.